Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I am so happy that you're with us today. Oh, my dear friends, I often hear from agents who want me to interview their clients, but by now we have so many wonderful people who are there that we can call on, and I have so little time to read the new books that they're showing me now. And anyway, at this point, I already pretty much know what you are going to ask me. Who do you want to have back? Well, I know who you want to have back. People email me and they say, hey, when are you going to have Mikey back again? We've just signed him up again for another time. His mother actually went to Florida for the winter and she doesn't have any recording information there, any materials, any possibility to talk to us from there. So she's back. So therefore, Mikey is soon going to be back. But people will also say, hey, Peter Wright, what about him? But the one that they ask for most of all is, what about Dr. R. Craig Hogan? People love having him as a guest. And fortunately, we can have him back a lot because actually, he's our co-creator. He was our first guest. 13 years it's been. And so we try to have him back 3 or 4 times a year. And it's time. Actually, it's a little past time to have him back. So our dear friend, Craig, is back with us again today for the 52nd time. And that's just about right because he's usually here 3 or 4 times a year. And as I say, he was our first guest when we began back in June of 2013. And we began because someone actually emailed me and he said, hey, would you like to start a podcast? And I said, what's a podcast? And I soon learned. Craig was our very first guest. He had published the first edition of Your Eternal Self a few years before, which was how I first found out about him. And I invited him to come and speak in Austin. That's how much I loved that book. And wow, does that ever feel like a long time ago now? I've learned so much from Craig. He and I have shared so much together. We put on some conferences at first, but then we found that doing that spending a lot of effort and having 200-300 people there, that was just too much work for so really small time results. So we began to do our 4 times a year conversations, and those worked out so much better. Craig really, we argued about this a little bit at a time. He really is the world's leading expert on death and the afterlife. And as we know by now, death and the afterlife have nothing to do with near-death experiences. They don't happen in the afterlife. And we'll explain how we can be confident about that shortly. But his books are the real thing. And he now is also custodian of my books, too. I don't have the time to be teaching about the afterlife much now. And Craig takes care of my books. He talks about them. He talks about his own books, too. And I am so happy to have him back with us. Craig, welcome, my darling friend.
Roberta, it's a delight to be here. I love talking with you. You are a fascinating person. You have so much to say, and I love responding to what it is that you're interviewing me about. And so this should be a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun for us. And while people are listening in on it, they can join in on the fun.
Yeah, we really love to talk. Mm-hmm. Craig and I are the absolute best of friends. We finish each other's sentences, and this is the greatest thing in the world, really, to be an expert on. And I have spent 50 years studying death and the afterlife. Craig has spent just about the same amount of time, and we're studying the real thing. Most of the greatest evidence came through about 50 plus years ago, right around the turn of the 20th century, through deep trance mediums and through others who were just studying this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful topic. And that's what he and I have spent our lives studying. And we're having so much fun at it still, really. So big hug to you, my dear friend. And first, we really need to tell people why near-death experiences are really just that. If someone is standing and talking to you and say, "Hey, I died and came back to life," he didn't die because there's no coming back.
Mhm.
If you die, your silver cord gets severed, and there you can't reattach that, baby. That's it. So where do we begin? I'm not even sure where to get started.
Yeah, yeah. The near-death experience is a condition in which the person has gone into a state of mind in which they are having glimpses of the afterlife, of people coming from the afterlife, and it's only a state of mind. So what happens is when the body is in a comatose state or and it is no longer functioning, the brain is for all intents and purposes dead, then they begin to go into this state of mind in which they can have glimpses of the afterlife. Now, during this state of mind, they're very open and receptive. They're receiving from the people who are coming from the afterlife to give them messages, to give them information. And the purpose of it is to help them to live the rest of their lives. And we have to realize that that's true. In a death experience, when a person makes the transition all the way into the afterlife, then they have finished their journey here. They've finished their work. They've have successfully done it because their exit point has come up, and so then they're going on to the next life, and their next life is going to be wonderful. But a near-death experience is just the person still in the earth school realm and still learning lessons and still becoming the person he's going to become based upon what it is that is being taught. And so then that person is going to be learning things in the near death experience to carry them in through the rest of their life because they are going to come back. So the near death experience is different from the actual death going all the way into the next life. There are things about what people learn in the near death experience that are germane to what is they're living in their life, and they are not necessarily glimpses of the entire reality of the afterlife. So it's customized to them to help them live their lives from there on. So
Yeah.
there are things about the near-death experience that don't happen in the final outcome when a person actually goes through the death experience. The tunnel, for instance, is not part of the death experience. Going into the light is not part of the death experience. The fact that there are people that they see there who have been waiting for them is not part of the death experience. What happens in the death experience is that the person goes all the way through into the other side. They may go through a period of sleep for a while. If they went into the next life because of an accident, then they might have been out of their body and looking down on their body for a while. But these are all very different experiences from the near death experience. So when somebody says that they're taking all of their information about the afterlife from the near death experience, they're getting only a small part of it. They're getting a kind of a myopic view of it because of the fact that they're having evidence from people who have not yet made the entire death experience process. And so it is different from the death experience, and people have to realize that.
Yeah, which is hard to do actually, because IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, they're studying these things even as if people needed to study them when they're aberrant. They're not giving you any particular information about anything. But IANS strongly kind of supports the idea that this is something important, which it really isn't, which is unfortunate actually, because then people ask me things. I'm sure they ask you too, things that about near-death experiences as if those experiences are important. We have to help them understand that no, there are great and very important experiences all ahead of all of us, and we should look forward to them with joy. I know people in the field of studying the genuine death and the afterlife experience who say, wait, they get out of bed each morning, they say, well, one day closer. And they're going about their day in this life, happy, not trying to shorten it, fortunately,
Mhm.
but they do look forward to the actual death experience and what comes after it with perfect, perfect joy.
Mhm.
Because we know that God is perfect love, and perfect love is what we face when we do face our ultimate journey. It's all to be looked forward to with happiness, but we don't want to miss anything that we have still to come in this life. If you are still here, you're here to do more learning, and all that learning is so precious. Among other things, it's much, much nicer where we're going than it is here. And we don't want to have to come back. If you live this life only to live this life with perfect love, perfect forgiveness, live exactly as we are supposed to be living here, which is learning every possible lesson in goodness, forgiveness, and love. If you live that kind of life here, then maybe you won't have to come back.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't want to minimize what happens during the near-death experience because the near-death experience is intended as part of this person's journey on the earth realm. So they're
Yes.
going through this process, they're becoming all they were meant to become in their
Yep.
pre-birth planning.
Good
And
point.
so as they're going through that process, then at this point they have the near-death experience. And in that, then they can learn wonderful things. Their loved
Yeah.
ones from the other side come to them and talk to them. An entity that they have the feeling is the divine, is God, speaks to them and tells them things about their life and tells them
Wonderful
about
points.
how they've
Yep.
got different and so it's a very important part of the process of going on with this life,
That's
having
right.
learned the lesson, having realized that they need to change something, they need to be a different person, that this is part of their growth. So the near death experience is this life experience. And that's the important part. It's continuing in this life. People are learning based upon it, and then they become changed people. So when a person comes out of the near death experience, one of the major hallmarks of that is that their affect changes, their view of life, their view of other people changes. Some of them even become a little more psychic than they were, or they were not psychic at all. They have some abilities that they didn't have. So there is a change that happens in the person, but it's a mental change. It's a psychological change. And so then this person is going to go on to live their life differently. And they do. People who have near death experiences don't fear death anymore. They treat their loved ones around them differently.
Yep.
Everything in their life changes as a result of that. That's the purpose of the near death experience. So the near death experience is the this life experience. The death experience,
Excellent point. My
next
goodness,
life.
that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
So
if you are
that's what,
better loving and more forgiving, then you have learned that lesson well.
yeah, and the
That's
wonderful
why
thing,
we come. Yes.
yeah,
So well.
yeah, it's wonderful things. I mean, what we're becoming is just phenomenal. It's just mind blowing. So what we're becoming is we're becoming more loving. We're becoming more
Yeah.
compassionate. So, in the end product is that if all people became more loving and more compassionate, we wouldn't have the wars that we have today. We wouldn't have the animosity among people. Our lives would be different. Families would be better. The communities would be better. So, this is all a process of changing us so that we become more loving and compassionate, which is just wonderful, and of changing humanity so that humanity becomes more loving and compassionate. And you and I will be watching this from the other side, but we're going to be watching the earth change over the next several hundred years. And in those
Yes,
hundred
we
years,
will be seeing it from over there, I
yeah,
think.
we'll be just sitting, eating our
And
popcorn and
cheering it on, Craig.
yeah, in our recliners, eating popcorn and just watching the whole thing happen. And so we will be watching it happen. And some of it we're going to be watching, and we're going to be disturbed by it because we're still going to go through this period of conflict. where people are not getting along well together, and they are being cruel and selfish and self-absorbed. So the life is still going to be like that for the next 100 or 200 years. Eventually, though, life on Earth is going to change.
Yes.
We chose to incarnate into life at this time, and this time in Earth's history is the crucible. This is where we have our feet in as has often been said, we have our feet in two worlds. We are both in the old world, which didn't understand the afterlife, didn't understand that we are greater than just the body, that was materialistic. And then we have our feet in the other world, which is where we understand that we're going to continue to live after the body dies, that we have a wonderful life to look forward to in the next life. So we're straddling those two right now in our lives. We chose to come now to help this to happen, to help this
Help to
change to
teach.
happen.
Yeah.
And so we're living through that now. But in the future, in the next couple of 100 years, it is going to be very different. The world is going to change. We're seeing some of that now. There are more democracies in the world than there ever were. You know, there are, while there are still the primitive societies that still behead people and execute people for no reason at all, there are still those societies. But at the same time, there are democracies. There's more of a concern for other people. There's much more humane treatment of the environment and animals. And all of this is changing. And we're part of watching that change. We're part of being that change. And so then are, when we're soon going to be going into the other side, then we'll be watching it from there. And we can even come in and help. So we'll be able to return and inspire people to be part of this effort. In fact, we could, if we decided that when we go into the next life, we could devote the rest of our eternal lives to coming into the earth plane to inspire people to be part of this, to give them messages, to help them to grow, to make humanity become what it will become. And that means that it will become loving and compassionate, and people will live in peace together. It will be a heaven on earth.
Thomas has already told me I'm going to come back to teach. I said, in your dreams. He said, no, you'll be doing that. You'll want to come. So
Yeah,
you,
yeah, that's
you probably have the same assignment.
yeah, yeah, and it's something to look forward to. And it is something that we will choose. Everything about the
Yeah.
next life is a choice. So we don't have to be anything that we don't want to be in the next life. We don't have to live the life that is supposed to be lived in the next life. We still have a free will choice. In fact, in the next life, we have a much greater free will choice
Yes. Oh, yes.
because
Oh, no question
we
about
can
that.
make of our lives there what we want them to be. We even have control over matter in the next life, and so that we can make things happen there that we want to have happen. And so it will be much more. We will be much more involved, and we can do many more things. We can come back into the earth plane. Anybody can come down to the next lower level. So we can go from Summerland, which is level 3, down to the earth plane, which is on the first level. And so we can come down in that way. We can't go up, but because of the fact that we have to go up based upon our mental condition, our psychological condition, and where we have reached ourselves to be. But we can come down. So what we will do is we will come down to the earth plane. We will become involved in people's lives. We'll inspire them. We'll try to be in the midst of any conflicts that are happening. And then eventually humankind's going to change, and we're going to watch it happen.
We're going to help it happen.
We're going to help it happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely right.
Yeah. We will never stop teaching. We will never stop being part of this effort right now that we're engaged in.
The problem is for many people that Christianity is based in fear, as are all religions based in fear, and they don't know when Jesus taught only love and not fear,
Hmm.
why that's true. And it's really because the religion was created by the Roman Emperor Constantine 300 years after Jesus rose. Um, and that's why it was not created by Jesus
Hmm.
at all.
Yeah.
And in fact, I hear from many, many people who say that they feel that they're a follower of Jesus, but they're not a follower of his religion. And that's more and more what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
At Easter, there was a record sale of Bibles, of Christian Bibles, record, the highest number in history of Bibles that was recorded was sold at Easter of 2016. And nobody got that. I mean, there were not more people going to church. There were more people buying Christian Bibles. I'm not surprised by that because more and more people are following Jesus
Mm-hmm.
and following, therefore, God, but we're not necessarily going to the Christian churches.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And the great teacher Jesus, whose name was originally Yeshua or Yeshua, was teaching something for humanity, and he was inspired by God to do that. And he continues to teach on the other side. So he is teaching, and it's in the great chain of being. So he teaches the levels that are immediately below him, and then they teach the levels below that, and they teach us. And so we're still being taught on this side of life.
Yes.
But what happened to Christianity was that after Jesus' crucifixion, the church then began to evolve. At first, it was just people gathering in their homes. They were called ecclesia, and these were just little house churches. There was no bishops. There were no officers. They would just gather together, and they would share what they had gotten in bits and pieces from the oral tradition, the stories that were being told, and then eventually from the things that were being written down, because people then started writing down the oral tradition. There were over 200 gospels. So we've only come down to the four canonical gospels, but there were over 200 of them. And they had wonderful sayings from Jesus about what we can do with our lives to live in love, peace, and joy with each other, to make the world a different place. And that was his mission. So what happened was over the first 2 centuries, then after Yeshua's passing into the next life, then the church took over. They first got bishops, and they would have the leaders of the ecclesia, of the little house churches. So they would have a leader there that was a bishop, and then they added other people. They added deacons, and they added other officers, and eventually, by the time it came into the 3rd and 4th centuries, the church had become this monstrous thing that Yeshua had no idea was happening. I mean, that's not what it is that he had wanted to have happen. So when Constantine came in and he saw his empire was falling apart in the early part of the 4th century, and he was fighting all sorts of battles, like the Battle of Malvern Bridge. Battle of Malvern Bridge in the first part of the 5th century, or the 4th century. Then he had seen a sign, and the sign was that he saw in the air, and he believed he got the message, "By this sign conquer." And it seemed to me like that it was a cross, and
It was a cross. He thought it was a cross.
yeah, based upon that, then he then converted to Christianity. But the primary reason he converted to Christianity, he didn't convert in the sense that he became a Christian, because he never ever really fully went into the Christian belief. He realized that he could wait until his deathbed to make a choice, and then he would go to heaven. So he did everything nasty that he wanted to do, including killing his wife and killing his children, and then eventually felt like he was going to be saved if he professed his faith at the last minute. But so Constantine was not this Christian, this great Christian, but he needed to have the church come together to save his empire. That's what he wanted to do. And he thought that the church then could unify the people, and then they would follow him. They would follow his rules based upon his vision of the cross at the Battle of the Malvern Bridge. And so by the time it came into the 4th century, the church had taken control. It became this monstrous thing with all of these officers and all of this theology and the concept of hell, which is entirely mythology. And all of these things grew up into the church so that the church could take control. So that these people, these individuals, who were the bishops and were the other officers, could take control. So then what Yeshua taught, what he taught in the first century, in the early part of the first century, is wonderful. And that's the word that we're trying to get out to people, to let people understand that they should go back to what Yeshua was teaching and not go to the church. So Christianity is eventually going to go away, but Yeshua is going to become stronger and stronger in his teachings.
What reached Rome initially was his way. It was called the way.
Yeah.
And there are millions of, well, there were hundreds of thousands at that point of burials in the Roman catacombs, but there is not a single cross, not
Mm-hmm.
one. There's that shows the most of the pictures, the depictions are of a young man with curly hair and darker skin, and he's carrying not a sheep, but a goat,
Mm-hmm.
because Jesus saved both the sheep and the goats. Everything looks totally different
Mm-hmm.
in those very first depictions in the catacombs,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Roman, rather the Jewish sect, which started all of this, which is what Jesus had founded. It was a Jew. He was a Jew. It
Mm-hmm.
was a Jewish sect. Those very first people who were teaching what Jesus taught were teaching a Jewish sect based on the teachings of a Jewish man. And that
Mm-hmm.
was what he was. All of this later stuff that came hundreds of years later was totally foreign. He would not have recognized any of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people are coming to see again. And I have a little group that meets on Wednesday evenings, and it's all based on a first sort of group of people that came together and that I taught some of this to, and they wanted to keep meeting. So now we're having our 70th weekly meeting. How many years is that? I guess it's a year and a half after what I had first taught them, and they really have come so far. They're really leading it at this point. I'm not, but they're worldwide. There are a lot of them are in Australia, and as as I say, there's one man in Serbia who just had a heart attack, but he wanted to come even though he was supposed to stay in bed. We finally made him turn off his computer because it was midnight in Serbia, and he was not supposed to be with us at that point. He was supposed to go to bed. But it's amazing. People in that group have told me privately that if they had not found the group that I was teaching in the beginning, they would no longer be following Jesus at all. But as it is, they've found Jesus through our teaching just what Jesus taught and saying, don't follow Christianity anymore. If you're not comfortable with it, follow
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. That's all you need to do. Oh, we can do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and more, that's what people are saying. Let's follow Jesus. If we can do that, hey, we're for it.
Yeah, yeah, and he had wonderful messages for us, and we need to receive those messages today and bypass everything that was put in between his being here on earth teaching and our day today, and just obliterate everything that happened in between those and go back to what he said. We have some accounts, the red letter editions. We can look and see what Yeshua had said himself,
And A
and
Course in Miracles still works.
yeah,
A
yeah.
Course in Miracles was dictated by Jesus. I'm
Mhm.
confident, having done it. It's tricky because he dictated a very advanced version of the same basic teachings, but they still work, and some people love A Course in Miracles.
Yeah, yeah, and
That works too.
yeah, and it's based in love.
It's based in love, and the
Yeah,
miracle it teaches is forgiveness.
yeah, Yeah. And it is not, it doesn't have the structure of a church, it doesn't have any of
None of
that
it.
trappings. No.
None of it.
And the other groups, there were other groups who were attempting to bring forth Yeshua's message to humanity. The Gnostics,
Yes.
who were a group of people. There are various groups of people. There are various groups of Gnostics, and they were teaching and what Yeshua had actually taught.
Yes.
And so then today we have some of their information, some of their gospels from the Nag Hammadi library in Egypt. And so we can learn from them. The Gospel of Thomas is one of the prime examples. And in the Gospel of Thomas, there are 112 sayings that Yeshua undoubtedly said because they do bring forth the teaching that we know that Yeshua taught. They were full of love and compassion and be concerned about others and all of the things that he taught. And if you look at the red letters in the Bible of just the things that he said, then you will see what he actually taught. And that's what the Gnostics picked up on. Of course, they were obliterated. You couldn't have Gnostics if you're going to have the Christian church, which was going to be taking control of everything. And so they just dismissed the Gnostics and got rid of them and got rid of all of their teachings and all of their books. But they had so much to teach people. And if it could have been a combination of what the Gnostics were teaching and what the church was teaching, then it
Yeah.
would have been a wonderful Christian religion. But it was not. And so then what they did was they took it up and they focused upon the crucifixion and the resurrection, and that became their primary teaching. And that's why you see all the crucifixes in the Catholic churches with an image of a man hung on the crucifix, which is
Yes, yes, and big. It's way big.
good.
It's
Good or
I
bad.
can't even be in my
No.
husband is still a Catholic. I can't even be in the churches anymore that he
Yeah.
attends.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
that's a
love the man, but I can't I can't be go to church with him
no,
anymore. I can't
no.
stand it.
It's a terrible image, and that is not at all what Yeshua was about. That's not at all what he was teaching.
And guilt,
And
the
the guilt,
guilt
right?
that
Yeah.
they hang on every Catholic.
Hmm.
Look, you're so sinful that Jesus had to die for your sins. Now don't you feel bad about yourself?
Yeah,
How
you
could you
did.
feel any worse?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is the teaching, and that is what the church hangs its hat on. And so they control through the manipulation and through the fear of hell, through the teachings that the church has all the right answers. And if you just do what we say, then you can live on eternally after you die. If you don't, you're going to go to hell. And all of that mythology that the church built up that had nothing to do with what Yeshua was teaching. And so now we're coming back to it. Now people are coming to realize that this is true, and we can really understand, we can really learn from what he taught. And if humanity embraced what Yeshua taught, then we would live together in love, peace, and joy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, but every religion is based in shame, is based in fear. They have to be. Otherwise, they'd never get anybody out of bed in the morning on Sundays.
Yeah.
It's true. People wouldn't get out of bed. I mean, what we do is we have a I mean, if you have people who want to be together and they're all over the world, what time do you have it? We finally voted on 5 o'clock Eastern time in the United States, and that turned out to be the best time for everybody. Mean and for some people it's close to midnight, and for other people it's very early in the morning. And yeah, that's all right. People didn't mind. They wanted everybody to be able to be there, but that was the closest to a time that everybody could do. It was, but they don't mind. They don't mind because they get to be with their friends, all of their friends,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it works.
Yeah. Yeah. And people need that. They need to get together and talk because there's
Yeah.
so much they can learn from each other, and they are going to be guided. So we're getting help from the other side, and people don't realize that there are their loved ones from the other side. There are guides from the other side. There's
Hmm.
souls which have an understanding of everything that's going on in their life. Their souls are all knowing. They are part of them, and they are from the other side and helping in our lives. and the souls of other people are involved. So there are groups of these people, these family groups that we have that are helping each other to grow. So we're being given all the help that we need to be given.
Yes.
We just have to
Yes.
be
I'm confident that that's
just have to
true.
be open to what we're being taught. And so when people receive these messages and they hear us talk and they realize what's going on, all they have to do is to continue to live their lives open to what's coming to them, both from their own guides and from the other teaching that's coming to them from outside. And they will learn to live their lives differently. As people learn to live their lives differently, they will change their communities. When they change their communities, they will change the world.
Yes. I mean, we have watched it just during our own lifetimes. We've watched a tremendous change in the way people view Christianity and the way people are watching Jesus separate himself from the church
Hmm.
and call people to himself. I certainly feel that's happened to me. I I thought I was a Christian, a good church Christian for most of my life. I was dragged kicking and screaming out the church door. I didn't have any choice in the matter.
Yeah.
I'm glad now, but I
Hmm.
wasn't in the beginning especially glad. I didn't understand why. Now I
Yeah.
can see why.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a similar story. I was pre-ministerial when I went to college and was going to become a Lutheran minister.
Hmm.
And so I had a deep faith at that time in the church. And as I learned things gradually, I came to understand that what the church was teaching was not what I was seeing when I read the Bible myself and
Yeah,
read what Yeshua actually said. And it became very disturbing to me. I went through a great night of a great night of the soul. What is
yeah,
it?
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
It's what it
and so
is.
I went through that night in which I was just questioning it, and I couldn't believe that it was true, and I wanted to get some idea of why I was getting those feelings, and finally realized that it just was not true. That what Yeshua was teaching is true. What the church is teaching is a distortion. And so, after that, then I then came to understand the life after this life and the fact that we are eternal beings having a physical experience, and that put it all into perspective. Then I understood.
We had very similar experiences.
Hmm.
And I think many people, many very holy people who really desperately want to lead a flock. They want to have, I wanted to be a Protestant minister.
Hmm.
So I fell in love with a Catholic. So that's how I was pulled away from my ambition.
Hmm.
And but you can't be a Catholic.
Yeah.
I quickly saw that that was true.
Hmm.
And so then you say, God, why?
Mm.
Why?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I saw why. I saw,
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're being brought to it. You're being drawn to it. We're being taught, and then it's a wonderful experience to know that there are people who are continually devoting their lives on the other side to helping us to become all we can become in this earth life.
mhm.
There are teams of people who are working with us on the other side, and we catch glimpses of them that when they come through, and when we get a medium reading, then we can get a reading and someone will come through and say that they have done something. If we go back to the Leslie Flint sessions, when Leslie Flint was the direct voice medium and people would come into the room and they would speak through an ectoplasmic voice box that formed on his shoulder. And so we have
Beautiful,
over
beautiful.
2,000 recordings today of those people coming through. And they all came through with the same message to say, don't take life so seriously. Don't be focused upon this life. There's much more to life than just this brief period of time when we're here. And we should be able to live together in love, peace, and joy. If we'd all lived in love together, it would be a wonderful life. All of the things that are burdening us, that are keeping us from having the wonderful life we could have, would dissipate. They would be gone. If we lived in love with each other, we would have no worries. There'd be no difficulty. We'd still have pain, but the pain would be physical pain. If something's going wrong with the body, we would not have psychological pain. And that's what so many people today are having. They're
Yeah.
having psychological pain that is more desperate than having the physical pain.
Yes. I'm trying to reach as many as I can and help to ease that.
Yeah, yeah. You're
Actually,
so,
it's Thomas through me. Thomas, my dear best friend and spirit guide.
yeah.
Oh, we have gone so far over what we're supposed to have done just because we love to talk. We should
Mhm.
just get together someday, halfway between. Is there a halfway between? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, my dear beloved friend. Oh, I'm just going to have to go away for a few minutes and tell people who our next guest is. But first, what do you want people to get from listening to us talk? What is your message this time to people?
Yeah, people need to realize that we are eternal beings. We're having a brief physical experience. All of the things in the play that we're engaged in right now are just illusions. They're only temporary. They're going to go away, and we can make of them what we want to make of them as a result. We cannot accept them as they are. We can go into them and make them different so that we have love, peace, and joy with other people. We have that within our control to do that. And we can live wonderful, glorious lives, regardless of what might be happening in the circumstances of our lives, if we just accept and live by these truths that we know to be true that Yeshua taught 2,000 years ago.
Just live by his perfect words. Absolutely right. Beautiful, my darling. That's just perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so once again, my beloved friends, we have come to the end of our time together, and this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm very glad you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And you really are going to be a different person altogether. Once you understand all the implications of that fact, your life will be nothing but beautiful peace, love, and joy. And our guest next week is going to be Dr. Noah St. John, who will be with us for the fourth time. We have enjoyed this man a lot before. He's actually always a lot of fun. Dr. Noah St. John is known as the father of affirmations and the mental health coach to the stars. He has an eight-figure, he works with eight-figure company CEOs and professional athletes, and he's famous for helping people make more money in just 12 weeks than they made in the last 12 months while winning their lives back. He's also the author of 12 books. Oh, I remember this fellow. He bounced around the room. He was just such full of joy and activity and fun. And people loved him. They actually said, have that guy back. The Seven-Figure Machine, Your Ultimate Roadmap to Endless Earnings and Financial Freedom, is his book, and you can get $300 worth of free bonus gifts when you get the book at sevenfiguremachine.com. So be sure to join us next week. And today our guest has been the wonderful, inestimable Dr. R. Craig Hogan. This has been Craig's 52nd time with us in the past 13 years, and that's amazing all by itself. We always somehow it's different each time, but we're always talking about the same basic thing in 52 different ways. We talk about the truth, and the truth is boundless. The truth is love. The truth is perfect joy. The truth is Jesus. The truth is what Jesus taught us and how that truth is ever truer today. Because he's alive, Jesus is endlessly alive. He never died in the first place, and he certainly is even more now, more perfectly alive than he ever was. And Craig and I have spent our lives teaching the truth that is Jesus and learning ever more perfectly how to teach that truth together. He's right when he says, We're never going to stop teaching this, and we're going to teach together more closely than we ever have taught in the past once he and I both transition. Everyone who's listening to our words now, please remember, life after death is just life more purely, the life that you're living now. If you live it with love and perfect joy, which is what you can easily do because that's what it actually is, all of this is perfectly, wonderfully true. Go to seekreality.com.
Yeah, it's afterlifeinstitute.org because it's a nonprofit.
Go to that website and you can learn from Craig every day, ever more perfectly, what it is that you are looking forward to ever more beautifully, ever more wonderfully every single day. And meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our One Reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being and you are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly forever loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.